Professional Master of Education, also known as the PME, in primary teaching is a 2-year, full-time Level 9 postgraduate programme designed to qualify graduates as primary teachers. The programme focuses on the student's role as learner, teacher, researcher and leader.
I have always wanted to be a primary school teacher since I was a little girl. I grew up in a family of primary school teachers, so I suppose I've always been surrounded by it.
I always wanted to be a primary school teacher, especially after my 3rd year placement. I spent the year in a primary school working with children, and I really enjoyed it, and that was when I was sure that that was the career for me.
I've always loved working with young children, particularly I have an interest in their development.
And because I chose the Irish, it gave me the opportunity to go on my placement year in 3rd year, and that was spent in Gaelscourt in Scullinogue in Glenmire in Cork, and it was there really that I made up my mind to be a primary school teacher. Before that I was in between primary school and secondary school teaching, but because of the 3rd year that I spent in Scullinogue in Glenmire, based full year round, immersed in the Irish language, and also getting real hands-on experience with primary school children, that was when I made up my mind that I wanted to go on and do the graduate diploma at the time.
With the continuous need for more primary school teachers in Ireland, we looked for some insight from staff and students into the process of applying for the PME course in Mary Immaculate College and what it takes to become a teacher.
I think the reason that students choose Mary Immaculate College over other teacher training colleges, the main reason would be the reputation of Mary Immaculate College, because we produce excellent teachers and we're known, you know, countrywide and worldwide for that reputation. I think also there are geographical reasons why students would choose to come to Mary Immaculate College, because we're the only teacher training college on the western side of the country, and all of the other colleges are on the eastern seaboard. So people may have, you know, be living in Cork, Kerry or wherever, and it might suit them to come to Mary Immaculate College. Financial, another reason. We get people from Dublin applying to Mary Immaculate College, and the cost of living in Dublin, as we all know, is very expensive, and it might suit them to live, you know, in Limerick, because the cost of living would be slightly cheaper. The PME course began in September 2014, and up to date we've had 1,920 applications, starting off with 245 in 2014, and we've had 438 this year, so it'll give you an idea. It's been increasing every year. The academic requirements that the Department of Education and Skills set out as the requirements for the PME are a Level 8 degree with a minimum 2-2 award, or a Level 9 or Level 10 degree, and the Leaving Cert requirements are currently a H5 in Irish, an H7 or an O5 in English, or a H7 and O6 in maths.
I found the application process to be very straightforward. The first stage involves filling out an application form, sending it to Mary Immaculate College with transcripts and references. You're then called for both an English and an Irish interview, and I found it to be very relaxed, is very comfortable, and the lecturers made you feel very much at ease, and it was more like a general conversation than a very formal interview.
It is interesting in the fact that it is solely based on interview, which I have a mixed opinion about. The English interview is very straightforward in the fact that it examines you as a person, how you're going to be fit for that primary teaching role, which is important. However, it is solely dependent on how things go on the day. There is a certain amount of interview prep that can be done, however, it is solely reliable on what you walk into. Irish-wise, it is important, obviously, for in Irish primary schools to have an Irish exam and to test the fluency of the Irish teacher going in. It should, I think, in my opinion, it should be marked more evenly. So, like, there should be like 50% for your English interview and say 50% for your Irish. But as it stands, it is as fair as it can be.
I think the application process in Mary I is probably a bit unfair with the amount of places that's available, but I do think it's achievable. If you put in the work, it should pay off for you.
In this section, Father Michael Wall discusses his role as an interview panel member for the PME programme. He speaks about the structure of the interview and the English and Irish elements of the process.
That when the interviews come up, an appeal goes out from the Education Office looking for people who volunteer. And I came here full time in the year 2000, and I think I volunteered to be on the interview panel or to do the interviews. I think every year really. So I have done them in English, I've done them in Irish, and I've done them for the Gohongok ones, and I have done some of the mature ones as well. Basically, in terms of marking, there's 40 marks going for the oral. There are 100 marks going for the English interview. So obviously the English interview carries a lot of weight. On the other hand, every teacher coming into a primary school in Ireland needs to have a reasonable competency in Irish. If you're going to have a reasonable competency in Irish, you need to have that competency coming from the Leaving Cert, coming from either your degree, if you do a degree in Irish here in the college, and obviously, to grapple with the challenges of kind of studying the Gaeilge part of your PME course, you need to have that basic kind of competency. Is there a major emphasis on it? Yeah, well, there's an emphasis on it, and what you do need to be able to do is you need to be able to read a piece of Irish is given to you, so it's like sight reading. You're given a piece of text, you read it, and then you'll be asked questions as to whether you understand the text or not. We'll do a Hishkent, and then as well as there's a kind of a general interview where you will be asked general questions Irish about kind of maybe your pastimes, Cahabaimshra, the kind of Swail Swalla, or kind of Malayan scale, Fay Star or Tool, Narud Marshin. So it's basically to see, have you got a certain Leafucht, a certain Crinus, and a certain kind of Severus.
PME students can struggle more than the undergraduate student due to not preparing properly. They go from being an undergraduate and go on to the PME without having adequately researched their financial options. Be it, are they able to continue in a part-time job? Will the hours on the PME course allow them to continue with their part-time job? Do they have any savings that they can make towards the tuition costs? Will they be able to get a loan? And if they do get a loan, will they be able to make arrangements to repay the loan at the end of the PME programme? There's a lot of things they need to prepare for before coming on the PME course. Otherwise, you are going to find that the PME students will struggle if they don't make adequate preparation and take into account all these different factors. So my final message is prepare, prepare, prepare.
Unlike the 4-year undergraduate Bachelor of Education course, the PME programme is condensed into 2 years. The programme involves both theoretical work and teaching practice, also known as TP, in allocated primary schools.
PME is there is a lot of work attached to it. I didn't dream that there was going to be that much work involved in the PME. However, I do know in comparison to the undergrad BEd programme, we were going to be fitting everything into 2 years and they have 4 years. So we knew that there was going to be a certain amount of stress and workload attached to it.
Some sort of placement may be in a special educational needs setting. Everything was mainstream at the time. For us, in those 8 weeks, it was 2 weeks at infant level, 2 weeks at first and second, 2 weeks at third and fourth, and 2 weeks at fifth and sixth. I think there is room there for some. I think they might do 10 or 12 weeks TP now. There is definitely room there for 2 weeks at either in an ASD unit or some sort of special educational needs setting.
So the PME course is structured over 2 years. It's 4 semesters, as opposed to 8 semesters in the BEd programme.
Core subjects of the primary school curriculum, such as English, Irish or Maths, are taught in the programme. Although there are many subjects on the primary school curriculum, some lecturers from the college will outline the subjects that they specialise in individually.
Well, the PME Maths course has 2 parts. The largest part is the pedagogy of maths, so how to teach maths. what order in which you might address concepts, materials you might use, how to help children develop understanding of maths in a way that's important. So not learning off tables or learning big, long, complicated things, but teaching it in a way that children understand. And the other small piece is, in some areas there's a little bit of new mathematical knowledge themselves, so we focus a little bit on that as well.
The music curriculum in primary school involves 3 strands: listening and responding, performing and composing. So in terms of delivering that then in the PME course, so a student can expect that from day one they're going to be creating sounds. They can create sounds, as I say, from found sounds, sounds from things around them, like even the leg of the chair, sounds from implements in a kitchen or a garden shed, or then obviously their body percussion, vocal sounds, and then instruments as well. But because of the fact that you can create sounds from all of these diverse areas, it means that it's accessible to students that have actually not necessarily had a background in performance before coming in here. Because, as you will know, not every student that comes into to study PME will have a formal background in music. So because they're training to be primary school teachers and they're expected to deliver the primary school curriculum, my job is to enable them to do that. So I think from day one, if they feel they can actually create their own sounds, it will give them the confidence to be able to go out and deliver the curriculum.
We work with postgraduate students, which we were delighted to. They are a very interesting group of students to work with, primarily because they're out there in the other disciplines. They come from different variety of backgrounds, so there's a huge amount to offer. We would work with PME students for 2 semesters, about 10 weeks, so that's an hour a week. Now, we have them for very little time, but when we do have them, they're very engaging and they're really interested in learning.
I think the students find the visual art programme very enjoyable because they get an opportunity to actually work with their hands, and they also get an opportunity to talk among themselves as they're working. So I think that generally they would find it very interesting.
PJ and Aisling highlight the attributes that qualified PME students possess and the characteristics they hold as educators.
The people who undergo postgraduate programs, they more than likely have done extensive voluntary work in some capacity, and they know 100% that this is what they want to go doing. Whereas when you get involved in the undergrad program, you know, you could be 17, 18 years of age, you're just finished secondary school, and you have it in your head that you want to go doing it, whereas you have no actual experience of doing it. And that's why I suppose, as I said before, the people who are doing the PME, who are doing the graduate diploma, they know for a fact that this is what they really want to go doing. Whereas in the undergrad, you know, you don't have any experience beforehand. And I think that's an advantage of the PME in a way, like, because you are more mature, you have an undergrad under your belt. So it was actually August by the time I realised that I had to go further afield. My aim was to get the dip done in my first year, and I was fairly determined to do it wherever I needed to do it in order to have the best chance of coming back down to the Munster area. So my first year out, I spent it in Gaelscoil, Luan, Scoil-na-Gearmá Street in Athlone. So I went up there for a year, got my dip done, and you know, that was looked favourably upon then by schools closer to home, schools in Limerick. You know, Kerry and Limerick were my ideal places to settle on, because I had been in college here at undergrad level and postgraduate level. So yeah, I was lucky enough to get a job in Gaelscoil and Raheen, and I have a permanent position there now. So
I think schools are really important spaces, and they're primarily responsible for the education and care of children from age 4 or 5 up until 12. So after parents, schools are where children interact and spend a lot of their time. So in that sense, teachers are really, really important. So I think it's really important that schools have teachers with a wide variety of life experiences and knowledge and background and so on. So I think PME students bring with them a new set of skills, a new perspective and lens on childhood, on education and on children. And in that sense, PME students have a lot to contribute to the education and care of children in primary schools.